Hello, everyone, and welcome. Tonight we're going to be playing some Legacy Magic the Gathering, and we're going to be playing this blue-red Delver deck here that you see in front of us. I have not had a chance to play this exact list yet, but I have played a lot of Delver in the past, and I've played some of the older iterations of blue-red Delver, so we're going to be trying it out here with some new cards and see how it goes. This is the list that Rich Cali used to win Star City Syracuse a couple weeks back, and he's given us some new toys. We're playing with Light Up the Stage and Terramanders out of the new set, and we're going to see how they fare here in Legacy. Um, this deck is designed a little bit differently than what some of the other Delver decks have been in the past. The older versions played Bedlam Reveler and Stormchaser Mage. They were always okay, but they weren't anything special. We're going to see if these new cards here give us a little extra power. This deck as a whole is just designed differently than what the old ones were. You have True Name and Young Pyromancer here as additional threats. So you're a little less burn oriented than what the older ones were, but you're still getting to play your same good old cantrips that you play here in Legacy. You have Brainstorm, you have Ponder, and then you have Daze and Force of Will package. And you also have your burn spells that you want to play in 4 Lightning Bolts and 3 Chain Lightnings. One little silver bullet card that you're playing 1 Vapor Snag. Vapor Snag is very good against the Depths decks, the lands or black-green Depths, and or it's also pretty good in the mirror match too. One other thing to note here is this deck is playing Wasteland. A lot of the older blue-red lists were not playing Wasteland, so that is a little more hedge in the way of a traditional Delver deck. Outside of your main deck there, so your sideboard is a lot of anti-combo stuff. You have 3 Flusterstorm, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Abrades for the Chalice of the Void decks, a Sulfuric Vortex for against control. It's great against Miracles, great against Grixis. A bunch of blasts, red blasts. You have a couple Fork Bolts for Elves and the Mirror Match, and you also have a Null Rod and a Grafdigger's Cage rounding out your sideboard. But what we're going to do here, we're going to hop in a league. We're going to see how it goes. I first tried recording this. We accidentally took a loss. I thought I started recording my previous league, but apparently I missed the button and it did not start recording. So we actually started with a loss here. We are going to be playing our full 5 rounds, so I will play 4 here and I'll play the first into the next league if we get there, and we're going to see how it goes. So we will be trying to give you the full 5 matches here. But this was the list here. This is Rich's list, but this is the same one that we had loaded up. I didn't make any changes to it yet. I wanted to see how his list played before I made any changes. Um, but as a whole, I mean, if you're going through an event, you're winning an event. I can't imagine he has too many suggestions. I mean, there might be a couple cards here and there, like the 1 Vapor Snag, the 1 Preordain, are kind of cards that could definitely be switched out. I'm curious to see how good these 3 light up the stages were. Terramander, I expect Terramander to be very good. It's an additional 1 mana threat, and later in the game it becomes huge, and you could definitely get to fill your graveyard quickly with the way this deck is designed. So we're going to see how she fares. As soon as our opponents are ready here, we will be ready to go. Alright, so let's see how round 1 will treat us. Looks like we get to start on the play, so yes, I would like to go first. This hand is fine. This hand's fine. We only have 1 land, but we have 2 ponders to look for another land. So I think this is the kind of hand where I'm tempted to lead on a ponder, because if we go land Delver and our opponent wastelands us, we could be in some trouble. Um, but from our opponent's perspective, if I'm going land Delver and I'm in my opponent's seat, I'm not going to lead on a wasteland. So that might be enough of a reason just to lead on the Delver here. I don't know. It seems like different people play these matchups very differently. But if, like I said, if I'm in my opponent's seat, I'm not wastelanding against a Delver already on the table. You're going to put yourself in a bad position. You're going to be behind a land, and there's already a threat in play. So I think leading on the Delver here is fine. And next turn, we could try to set it up and look for our land. All right, so we do get the flip with the Lightning Bolt. That's a nice little start for us. We get the blind flip with the Delver. Our opponent just played Polluted Delta, so that could be any number of things. Let's attack first. They don't do anything, so we will ponder. So one reason here we wanted to ponder before we tried light up the stage, we really want to find our land here. So ponder lets us see 3, potentially 4 cards, and stage is only 2. So that's the reason to lead with ponder. But so what do we want here? Well, we're gonna draw the polluted delta for sure, and I think we're gonna probably put the Pteramander next. So we'll put ponder on the bottom, and we'll see what our opponent wants to do. They choose not to fetch. Now they choose to fetch. So if they're fetching main phase, maybe they were missing a land and they wanted to draw an extra land. Oh, this is not good. Well, unfortunately, the show and tell is going to resolve, and we have nothing we can say about it. Yeah, I mean, I guess they got it. We don't. This is sad for us. We don't even have a single thing to put into play, so we might just be dead here. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So let's see what they decide to do. Generally, Sneak and Show is a pretty good matchup for Delver, but not when we don't have any counter spells in our hand. All right, they got it. Well, our opponent just found everything they needed there. They had their nut turn 2 Show and Tell into Omniscience into Gristlebrand Emrakul, so we're not beating that hand without a Force of Will. So what do we want to bring here? Bring in Flusterstorms. We can bring in Surgical Extraction. And all of our Red Blasts. The rest of these cards here are not going to be good enough. Surgical is kind of on the fence. We might bring this in, we might not. But the rest of these cards are definitely coming in. So our removal spells are going to be at their worst here. Lightning Bolts, Chain Lightnings, Vapor Snag. Those are the cards we don't really care about a whole lot. All they do is give us a little bit of extra reach. We want the cantrips. We want to be able to filter and find our counter magic. So I think that being a pretty clean swap, I think we'll bring in the surgical extractions without even having to think about it, because you can always counter a show and tell and surgical their show and tells, and you can really cripple them. Or if they're playing the Cunning Wish Intuition package, you can get them with a Cunning Wish sometimes or an Intuition. So let's see what we're gonna go from here. We're gonna submit this and see how game 2 goes. Hopefully a little bit better. This hand does not have a waste, or this hand does not have a threat, but we'll keep it. We have Ponder, Preordain, and a Pyroblast. We have 2 cantrips, so these hands are kind of hard to throw back. These are the kind of hands that you should. Let's lead with a Ponder, because we know we're going to be shuffling here anyway. Yeah, this is fine. We'll draw these creatures. Alright, so we found our threats. We have 1 protection spell here in Pyroblast, so we might need a little bit of help. I mean, I guess not if our opponent here just decides to show and tell on turn 1 again. It's kind of strange that they just threw out their Lotus Petal. When they fire off a Lotus Petal just randomly like that, I almost expected them to try and jam a show and tell on turn 1. But that's fine. So that being said, I am going to make sure I leave up Pyroblast here. So I'm just going to play Pteramander and say go. Next turn we can play Young Pyromancer and have a Pyroblast. But at this point, if we have the mana, there's no reason to pass a turn and take your only protection spell down. All right, well, I guess we're gonna see if they have it. We're gonna try to counter that. Yeah, so our opponent looks like they were just on the plan to jam and jam and jam. Like that's what it looks like. It looks like they're not even trying to play around anything. So, all right, so we're gonna wasteland, play our young pyromancer. Hopefully get our clock going here. Next turn, we're gonna use this preordain to hopefully find another counter spell. Give us a little bit of protection. They're gonna brainstorm. Okay. Ponder. Okay. I'm kind of surprised our opponent didn't try to hold on to that show and tell here a little bit. I mean, you're playing against Delver. You know Delver plays a bunch of counter magic, so it's pretty unlikely that that show and tell is just going to resolve without having any kind of fight over it. All right, so how do we want to go about this? I guess we're going to fetch here first. We can fetch, preordain, and possibly set up our Delver. But we'll fetch, we'll get this out of the way. Oh, we don't need another Delver. I guess we're going to take the Brainstorm. I mean, it's not a counterspell, but it'll do. And again, we are playing Terramander, so one thing to keep an eye on here is your graveyard to figure out how many spells you have in there. Currently, we have 3, so we're still pretty far away from making our Terramander big, but it's one thing to definitely keep an eye on. Like I said, it looks like our opponent's just on a jam it plan. But we did find a Force of Will this time, so let's put back Bloodstained Mire, Preordain. We're going to force pitching True Name. They're going to brainstorm in response here. So I assume they're looking for a Force of Will. They didn't find it. All right, so we get to flip our Delver. And now we can adapt our Terramander and attack for a bunch of damage. All right, so that's game 2. It's typically the way this matchup goes. A lot of times Delver, you really only need to find one, sometimes your second counter spell. You just need to have a little bit of disruption to go along with your counter spells to try and keep them off balance. They're playing a very fragile deck. We haven't seen any Cunning Wish or Intuition stuff yet, so they're probably just playing the straightforward sneak and show list. So the surgical extractions are not as good against that type of deck, but they're still probably good enough to keep in. Like I said, Cage is not good enough. Cage and Null Rod just don't do anything here. Vapor Snag is not great. I guess like your other option would be to do something like bring in a couple of extra lightning bolts, but if that's going to be your plan, I think you're better off just having the surgical extractions here. Because like I said, if you can just counter their first show and tell and get the surgical their show and tells, like you're going to leave them with a lot less options. All right, so we're going to be on the draw here for game 3. This hand is something. It's not very often that you have a no-lander that you consider keeping, but this is definitely one of those hands that I wouldn't. It's not outside the realm of sanity to think about keeping this hand. I mean, you have 3 Force of Wills, and your opponent has shown zero ability to try and slow roll their show and tells. So let's see. What happens if we keep this hand? If we keep this, our opponent's going to do whatever on turn 1. They're going to pass. I mean, if we miss a land, we're going to have to go to discard, so we'll discard Light Up the Stage. If we hit our land, we can play a Ponder, but then we're still going to have Force of Will, double Flusterstorm. This is pretty insane, but I think I'm actually going to keep this. We're going to cross our fingers here, and we're going to hope we can find a land. Because if we find one land, I'll feel pretty good about this. Now, obviously, if you're playing a matchup where Force of Will wasn't good, you would never keep this hand. But the fact that we're, like I said, we're playing against a combo deck, a super hyper aggro combo deck. Our opponent appears to be playing very aggressively from what we've seen. So I don't think it's terrible to keep this hand. I'm actually just going to pass here. I'm not even going to play this Ponder. Like, I'm just going to keep up Flusterstorm. If our opponent just goes, like, Ancient Tomb into Show and Tell, we're fine. And also, next turn, if we save this Ponder for next turn, we can Ponder looking for a land, and if we find our second land, then still play it for the turn. So now we also drew another blue card, so we still have all 3 Force of Wills up. Now this is going to be a shuffle, unfortunately, because now we've used our cantrip, and now we have no more land drops here. So this is one we will shuffle. All right, so we missed on our land that time. We had 4 looks at it, and we couldn't find it, so we'll discard this Light Up the Stage. Our opponent went bottom with their Preordain. So maybe they're missing lands. All right, so we'll play Delver. Lotus Petal, sure. Delver does not want to flip. He's going to reveal another Delver. So that being said, let's attack for 1. Let's play our Delver. And say go. All right, so now we have two threats on the board. We have 2 Force of Wills in our hand. Next turn is if they don't do anything here, we're probably just gonna pass. Even if we draw a spell, we can start leaving up Flusterstorm, and multiple Force of Wills. Terramander is actually not terrible. I mean, we're not gonna play it. We don't get the flip, but it gives us our extra blue card to pitch to the Force if we need it. So we can discard a Pyromancer. All right, here they go. Here they want to fetch. So they're just going to play a blank sneak attack into our daze. So this gets around Flusterstorm. So I think what we're going to do here is probably force pitching Terramander. I would like to keep these Flusterstorms just in case like they do this and then the following turn they want to leave. They want to try and lean on a show and tell. So I think we're going to pitch Terramander here. And this also, if they have a Force of Will here, this also lets us Flusterstorm their Force of Will. Alright, so all copies are going to target their Force of Will. That resolves. Delvers are still not flipping. But it's not the end of the world. Like I said, we still have 2 counter spells in our hand. They're missing a land drop, which is going to make our Flusterstorm better. Alright, so Delvers are finally flipping now. And we get another Force of Will. So we're just going to attack with these Delvers. Send our opponent down to 7. Good luck trying to get that to resolve. And we're not going to play this Delver. Our opponent's going to 1. There's no reason to play another card, and this gives us another Force of Will card to pitch. Alright. Alright, so that was not a bad match to start the night. We had a nice little no land keep there for game 3, and it worked out well for us. Like I said, the Force of Will hand, having triple Force of Will and 2 Flusterstorms, like that, I think that's definitely reasonable to keep that hand. But if you're gonna throw that back, I'm not gonna really fault you for it. But I think it's fine to keep, especially on the draw. All right, so match 2 here, we're gonna be on the play. This hand will keep. So we get to go Island into Delver. We don't have any Force of Will protection here in this, so hopefully we're not playing against a combo deck. Playing against another Polluted Delta. Island Ponder. Majority of the time, if it's Island Ponder, I'll usually just put them on a combo deck. I mean, it could be Miracles, but it's pretty safe to assume that they're a combo deck. Alright, so we're just going to go Terramander and fetch land. We're going to save this fetch land for Brainstorm. So at this point, we're going to try to Brainstorm back Volcanic Island and Lightning Bolt if they're not good in the matchup, and we get to use a Scalding Tarn to shuffle them away. Well, it looks like this is Miracles. Okay. You would like to plow the Delver? Sure. Ponder, yep. So that being said, the Scalding Tarn might get us a basic. We don't want to get cheesed out of the game by a back to basics. Alright, so I think we're going to play Pyromancer here. It's kind of just going to be a matter of, are we going to use the Scalding Tarn to fetch for a basic? Do we want to Brainstorm first? So we can lead on Brainstorm. Get rid of this Volcanic Island, fetch another land. But I kind of like keeping the Brainstorm until next turn. Trying to get our token out of the Pyromancer. Or your other line is just to play Terramander here. Alright, so I think I'm going to play Pyromancer. Oh, what is this? A random Thoughtseize? Um, alright, so this Thoughtseize is really... This Thoughtseize is annoying. Definitely was not expecting a Thoughtseize out of this. So if we let them Thoughtseize us, they're just going to take Brainstorm. I mean, we can cast Brainstorm. Casting Brainstorm gets us our token. And we can try to hide a card. I mean, these two cards in our hand right now really aren't worth... Sure. I'm actually going to get Island. Island, so we can try to play around back to basics a little bit. Yeah, we'll cast Brainstorm. These cards are all kind of just a pile of nonsense. We'll put back Volcanic Island. And I guess Terramander. We're going to try to save this Terramander so it doesn't get Thoughtseized. Next turn, we can cast Preordain and put that Volcanic Island back on the bottom of our deck. Alright, so Volk to the bottom. I'm actually reasonably tempted to take this Lightning Bolt. Our opponent's at 12 already. Our opponent's at 12. We're playing another Terramander. We're going to try to make these Terramanders big. So we're just going to go Terramander here, Chain Lightning you, and have Double Bolt. Or I'm sorry, not Double Bolt. This is just going to be our one bolt because they discarded the other one. Stoneforge, sure. That makes me even happier that I kept Lightning Bolt. So we have 1, 2, 3, currently 4 spells in the yard. This will be number 5. Alright, they get a Jite. Cast the Jite. Alright, so if that was their plan here, I kind of want to just Lightning Bolt this Stoneforge now. So with them getting Jite, it could mean a couple things. That means they could have the Batter Skull in their hand already. Which if we bolt the Stoneforge Mystic and they have Batter Skull in their hand, they might just go land, try to hard cast it next turn, and we can get them with the Daze. If they have, I don't know, let's say a Force of Will. If they have Force of Will, if we go to Lightning Bolt Stoneforge, they're going to Force of Will the Lightning Bolt and equip the Jite and attack and hit us with it. That's a very bad scenario. So I think what we're going to do is Lightning Bolt now. That way, if they have the Force, we can Daze it. And next turn, if they have Batter Skull, try to hard cast it, we can Daze it. So this Daze could actually be very good here. Yep, there's the Force of Will. It bounces Volcanic Island back to our hand. That was actually a mistake by me there. I should have replayed the Volcanic Island. Our opponent conceded anyway, but so unfortunately we're not going to get punished. But I actually should have played Volcanic Island, and it would have let me adapt one of my guys here. I actually clicked too fast, and I started going to my attack step, and I didn't think that fully through. But Alright, so we're playing against Stoneblade. So we get to bring in Null Rod. We actually have a reasonable amount of cards here. We have Null Rod, a Braid, Sulfuric Vortex can stop the life gain on GT and Batterskull. These cards we do not want. Let's see here. Force of Wills can come out. Force of Wills are just generally not very good in the fair matchups. These Red Blasts are reasonable too. Red Blasts have Fork Bolts. So let's see what else we want to take out here. Fork Bolt just gives you an extra answer to kill a Stoneforge Mystic. Red Blasts, they're going to be playing stuff like True Name Nemesis and Jace, so the Red Blasts are going to be good too. So we might just bring all of these in. So let's see, we've got Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, those can stay in. We've got one Vapor Snag. We're on the draw, so we might just cut the Dazes altogether and just play no counter magic. I guess we'll cut the Dazes and one of the light up the stages. I think that's fine. We can just play a little more of the burn control game here. We have some answers to the trouble artifacts now after board. There have been a lot more of these Stoneblade decks that have been coming back recently. Stands fine, we'll keep this. But when the Grixis mid-range deck was really popular, Stoneforge Mystic really kind of fell out of favor. But Grixis has been kind of taking a little bit of a downturn recently, so Stoneblade decks are starting to come back. All right, so our opponent gets a lead on an Inquisition. If they're going to lead on Inquisition, that means we're probably going to lead on Wasteland. Nothing's really changed. There's a chance that they really relied on this Underground Sea. So most of the time, if you have a window like that to just Wasteland on turn one, you generally are going to take it. But like I said in the previous match, if they led on Delver there, I would not have Wastelanded. Because you're just putting yourself too far behind. So they want to Thoughtseize us? Sure. I'm not quite sure why Thoughtseize is still in his deck. I mean, Thoughtseize is not great against us. Like I can understand the Inquisitions because those are fine, but so they took light up the stage. Interesting. All right, we're not going to play anything here. They want a Stoneforge? Sure. They got the Batterskull. I'm actually going to Lightning Bolt here on the end step. If they have a Daze, they're going to get us, but our mana might be a little tight here the next couple turns, but so they just F6, they went through it. That's fine. We drew another Wasteland. So let's see. We're probably just going to fire off the Wasteland here, honestly. Like, we have a True Name in our hand, but we could also... Because if we Wasteland them, we know they have a Batterskull in their hands. They're just miles away from casting a Batterskull. Yeah, I think we're just going to Wasteland. We're gonna hit the white source. Their deck revolves more around white than it does black. Black is probably just for the discard spells. I can't imagine too many more black spells in their deck. Alright, so they're just passing, so they're out of lands. Alright, so we get the Ponder. We have nothing here. We're kind of looking for lands at this point, so this is going to be a shuffle. We found a Tarn. Great. Alright, so we get to keep up a Red Blast just in case. Next turn, we'll see if we can find one more land. Play this True Name. Baleful Strix. That's fine. I'm not going to waste a Red Blast on that. Now I kind of wish I did, now that I have two of them. Alright, so are there any of these cards that we do not want? I think a Braid is probably the weakest one. I mean, we don't really want to Abrade a Baleful Strix. We know they have the Battle Skull in their hand, but they're, like I said, they're very far away from casting it, so I think we can safely get rid of the Abrade. Well, so we're going to keep Wasteland, but we're not going to play it. Or, well, we might play it, but I don't think we're going to use it right away. Because I think now that we have our third land, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to look to hardcast True Name next turn. Alright, so I think we're going to put back Chain Lightning. Actually, I'm going to put back Chain Lightning, Red Blast. I'm going to draw the Red Blast if we don't need to cast the other one this turn. Because I kind of want to have two of them. I don't want to be cold to an opposing True Name Nemesis. A Brainstorm's pretty good. Brainstorm might be good enough to get the Pyroblast out. Especially considering we know they were tight on mana. They have another Brainstorm. Okay. Okay, so they found a Flooded Strand. Take our one. We're going to cast our True Name. And pass a turn. Alright, so this might free up our Wasteland for next turn. This could be their True Name coming. Yep. Alright, so I guess we're going to have a True Name battle here. But fortunately, we are currently ahead in the race. Alright, so this is going to allow us to go True Name, or I'm sorry, Pyromancer here. Attack with our True Name. And we're going to probably Wasteland their White Source. I don't really care about keeping up a Braid. I think there's a pretty good chance that they probably shuffled away that Batter Skull, so I don't think that we're gonna have to worry about them hard casting a Batter Skull here anytime soon. That's pretty gross. I didn't even think about that card. I totally forgot about that card. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Let's see. So what do we want to get rid of here? How many spells we got in the yard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I guess our shuffle is going to probably be a Braid Delver. Play our true name here, see what happens. Now we are behind. So we're taking 4 here. Okay, now we're just dead. So he's just going to snap back Zealous Persecution. All right. You got it. All right, so we're going to go to game 3 here. We're going to be on the play this time. So Daze is definitely better, so we might bring these Dazes back in. What do we not want? I'm kind of looking at Light Up the Stage. Two more cuts. Now we're going to take Light Up the Stage. I don't think we really need the Vapor Snag here anymore. We have enough answers to Germ tokens and stuff like that, so the Vapor Snag is not going to be great. So I think 2 stages, the Vapor Snag, and probably this one random Preordain. Because like I like the rest of the cards that we have in our deck right now, so I think that's fine. But we're on the play, so Daze is going to be significantly better. Alright, this hand's fine. We don't have the early Delver, but we have Pyromancer and double Daze. And double Wasteland. Alright, so we're going to see if our opponent has the ability to play around Wasteland this game or not. I mean, if we show them Wasteland, they're obviously going to try to fetch for a basic if their hand can afford them to do it. Your other question is here is do you want to fetch a Volcanic Island, go Volcanic Island, Wasteland, and play a young Pyromancer? Um, we're going to be vulnerable to a Swords to Plowshares, but our hand looks like our mana is probably going to be a little tight here, so I think we're just going to do it and kind of hope they don't have it. Or if they do, they play it end of turn into the Daze. Well, that's interesting. Okay, we'll let them brainstorm. Brainstorming in response to Pyromancer kind of makes me feel like they don't have a plow for it. Because that makes me think they were looking for a Force of Will there. Otherwise, there really isn't much of a reason for them to brainstorm in response. Okay, so they have 2 basics, but neither of them is white. So our Pyromancer is going to survive, hopefully. Let's attack. We're going to cast Brainstorm here. We're going to cast Brainstorm here. We would like to find another land besides this wasteland. But we did find another Pyromancer. All right, so I'm going to put a daze back on top. I guess daze ponder. Yeah, let's do daze ponder, play our scalding tarn, and pass a turn. We want to be careful that you don't want to overextend too far into the zealous persecution like we did last game. I mean, last game I don't think we didn't really have an option. I mean, I did kind of forget about it, but I don't think we really had a good way to play around it. Yeah, Baleful Strix is good. It gave us a wasteland target, which is nice, so we get to make use of these. So I will draw the ponder that's on top of the deck. Okay, so that was the easy part. How do we want to proceed from here? So we're going to play Wasteland. We can play Wasteland and cast our Young Pyromancer. We actually might just go Young Pyromancer and Ponder. We have double days, so that way if they do have the Zealous Conscripts or the Zealous Persecution, we have a double days for it. It's unlikely that we're going to be able to leverage this third days that's on top of our deck. Or we could just play Ultra Conservative and keep the second Pyromancer in a hand just in case they find it, which isn't totally unreasonable. Because that's going to be their avenue of trying to get back into this game. I'm just going to keep all these cards. These cards are all great with Young Pyromancer. We just keep churning out tokens, and we're not really losing any equity in our cards. Get to attack for 1 this turn, 2 next turn, and it's just going to be incremental damage. We're not going to waste a Lightning Bolt on this Baleful Strix. Yeah, brainstorm away, my friend. So it looks like our opponent kept a pretty sketchy hand. Still no white source. It might not be unreasonable to Lightning Bolt this Baleful Strix now, because that'll also let us start attacking for the extra 2 damage with our Pyromancer, especially considering they went Brainstorm there and they didn't find a fetch land, or at least they didn't show it to us. If we Lightning Bolt this Strix here, we get to start really putting the pressure on. So this is 4 damage that we're attacking for this turn. So they did find their white source, so maybe they did find it here. Okay. So we have triple days. We have triple days here, but you're really opening yourself up to getting blown out by a daze on their end or a force of will if they have it. So I think I'm actually not gonna respond to this. We're going to take them off of white here. Play a Pyromancer, play a Ponder, get the reload. Flusterstorm. Okay. Alright, so we get to make use of our days. Get another token for our trouble. Let's count our spells in our yard. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 currently. So next turn we're going to be able to adapt this Pteramander. We'll get it out of persecution range. Hopefully that does not happen here. Well, they drew a Tundra. Alright, so one thing we can't do here is we can't just go for the adapt on the Pteramander. If we go for the adapt on the Pteramander, they can play a Zealous Persecution and they can wipe our board. So we're going to have to just attack here. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5. If they try to Persecution mid-combat, then we can respond with the Pteramander. But they could also just have something like a Swords to Plowshare here. So there's too many things that can go wrong. We're definitely not going to go for lethal. Alright, so they want to plow Pteramander. That one's fine. Alright, so this is still 4 damage on the table. So I'm not going to play Delver here. Like I said, we're going to try to play around for another Persecution if we can. They're playing a Snapcaster. Yeah, I think Snapcaster is just fine. Yeah, Snapcaster is good. Because they're going to target a plow, and we could daze the plow. Oh, they're going to target Persecution. Okay. Alright, so that just lets us cast our daze. We'll get an additional token here. Oh, and that's it. I guess our opponent had enough. All right, so we got a nice little 2-0 start here. We got a win against Sneak and Show. We got a win against Esper Deathblade, Esper Stoneblade, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's go to our next match here. Yeah, Zealous Persecution is a card that's very scary for this deck. I mean, you're playing your entire creature suite dies to Zealous Persecution, so that's a card that is something you definitely have to be careful for playing against these Esper decks. I mean, it's not that you play against them very often, but it is an incredibly powerful card against you. All right, here we go. Next round, we're going to be on the play for round 3. Our hand is acceptable. This hand is fine. We have Delver into Daze and a Wasteland. We can't complain. Ponder, sure. Alright, Delver trigger. We reveal a young Pyromancer. No, I would not like to reveal that one. So we can either just go Vulcan to Pyromancer, or we can go with the Wasteland plan here. Let's see what they did with this Ponder. They did not shuffle with their Ponder. So if they didn't shuffle with the Ponder, it makes me assume they should definitely have the other land in their hand. So I'm actually just going to go on Pyromancer. Had they shuffled with that Ponder, I would have been more willing to Wasteland there. But now we also get this Force of Will out of the hand with our Daze. I think so it looks like our opponent's playing 4-color, like the 4-color control deck. Vulcan to Bayou is a pretty ambitious mana base, so it's probably like something like 4-color Leovold. Um, that being said, I think we're just going to let them have this Baleful Strix. No, actually, I changed my mind. We're gonna Daze here because if we get to flip our Delver, we really don't want to let them have a chump blocker there. And now we also get to Wasteland them too. Flip with the Lightning Bolt, excellent. So let's Wasteland. Um, so I think we're probably gonna go after the Black Source. Black Source for stuff like Liliana the Last Hope, Toxic Deluge. I mean, we can play through a Lightning Bolt better than we can play through one of the sweepers. So we're gonna go after the Black Source. All right, so they're brainstorming, and they've had enough. All right, that was an easy game. So game 2. So we do not need Cage, no Null Rod, no Surgical Extraction. We're going to bring in Fork Bolt. Fork Bolt's a very clean answer to Baleful Strix. I don't think we want the Abrades. We're also going to bring in Sulfuric Vortex. All right, so Force of Wills can come out. The Vapor Snag can come out. You want all of your creatures. Your burn spells, like I said, are not bad. You could potentially trim a couple Chain Lightnings. We'll see what exactly, if we want to bring anything else in here. Flusterstorms are probably going to be good enough. I think you're going to be looking at either bringing in a couple Flusterstorms or a couple Red Blasts. Flusterstorm being able to counter stuff like Hymn to Turok and Toxic Deluge could be very important here. I think that might actually be better than the Red Blast. So let's bring in our Flusterstorms and cut one of our Chain Lightnings. I'm going to keep the Dazes because these decks run on a very greedy mana base. So if you can get them like into a Daze Wasteland pinch, like you could definitely win games off of that alone. All right, so this hand's fine. Our opponent's on a mulligan to 6. Lead on a Ponder, okay. Let's see what they decide to do here. Not to shuffle. All right, so I'm just going to say Island Go. I really don't want to get him to Turok here. We're also not going to run Pyromancer out here just into an empty board. You're going to wait to play Pyromancer until you have 3 mana when you can try and at least get 1 token out of it. Let's see. Do we want a Wasteland here? I think we're going to at least play the Wasteland. We'll see if we're actually going to use it. Let's wait till our opponent's upkeep. Let's see if they want to try to use this mana. So they do want to brainstorm with it. Alright, so I'm going to Flusterstorm here. So we're going to counter their brainstorm. They're going to get their island. Sure. And now we're going to Wasteland. Alright, so we get the window here. We get to play a Delver. Our opponent does not have another land. Alright, so Delver, we'll see what happens here. What are we going to try to reveal? A Wasteland. Well, it's not a spell, but it's one of the better non-spells that we could draw here. So we get to waste the Bayou. Attack with Delver. So I'm considering playing a cantrip here. There's a little bit of merit to wanting to keeping the cantrips because next turn we can go land, Pyromancer, play a dude, get a cantrip. But I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try to flip this Delver, especially we know our opponent's gonna be tight on mana. All right, we'll actually keep both of these. We'll put Flusterstorm on top first, so that way that's what we're revealing next turn, and then we do get to draw the Delver here. So, all right, so our opponent drew a Brainstorm. And our opponent scoops them up, so apparently they didn't find any lands in that deck, in those top couple cards. All right, so we have a nice little 3-0 here. My assumption is that last round was likely a 4-color control deck. That's what it looked like from what their mana base and the Baleful Strix and stuff. So Delver is definitely the kind of deck that can punish them with Wasteland and Daze. Definitely get to punish those greedy mana bases. But all right, here. So we have a round 1 win against Sneaker Show. A round 2 win was against the Esper Stoneblade deck, and then 4-color control here was round 3. So we're going to try to get us 2 more matches here, see how this goes, since we had that little bit of that hiccup there in that first round. But while we are waiting here, let's pull up some legacy metagame information, and we'll see how everything is currently shaking up. So according to Goldfish here, Grixis control is starting to come back into the metagame, which is kind of interesting because like it kind of faded out there for a little while, now it's starting to come back. Death and Taxes was a deck that really faded off hard with Grixis control, as well as the Stoneblade decks, which is, like I said, it's kind of funny how you see those two decks that are coming back. Um, Even some of the Miracles players are starting to move towards the Stoneblade version of the decks. I mean, Stoneblade is definitely better against stuff like Is It Delver because you get the Batter Skull and the GTA and some of the really good equipment against them. All right. So what do we got here? This hand looks like a keep. We only have 1 land, so we're gonna have to ponder looking for some land. But we have a Force of Will here for some protection against a combo deck, and we got a couple creatures to go with it. So we are on the draw this round. Cycling a Street Wraith. Okay. This could be a couple things. Could be Dredge, could be Death Shadow. If they're just main phase cycling Street Wraith, it's more likely to be Death Shadow. So they just go cycle, cycle. They're going to probably fetch and shock here. All right, so that being said, I'm actually going to lead on Ponder. I don't want to just lose this game to a Wasteland. If they go to try and Wasteland us next turn and we don't have another land drop, we could be in some serious trouble. All right, so these are not bad cards. So we'll put Lightning Bolt. We'll draw the Force of Will, and then we'll put the Polluted Delta on top of our deck. All right, so we have some protection here at least. We have double daze if our opponent I'm sorry, double lightning bolt if our opponent tries to get super greedy with their life total. They're playing him in the main. That's interesting because him is usually a sideboard card in this deck, not a card in the main. I mean, I think we're just gonna let this resolve. I mean, you could pretty much pick two random cards out of our hand, and they don't really matter. I mean, I guess the card that we really don't want to discard is the Young Pyromancer. But outside of that, the other cards aren't anything special. So they're basically rolling 1 for 7 to try and hit our Pyromancer. Or we could go, if we go force pitching Terramander, we're going to open ourselves up to a daze. So I think we're just going to let this resolve. And unfortunately, they did hit our Pyromancer, but I don't really think that was worth the force of will there. So we can brainstorm and play a Terramander here. Or we can just play Terramander and say go and draw the Lightning Bolt on top of our deck. Which I think is fine. Like, drawing the Lightning Bolt is fine here. So we'll play the Terramander and say go. Like I said, I kind of want to keep those two Lightning Bolts around, just because it really ensures your opponents so they can't get super greedy with their life total. So our opponent's casting a Dismember. Sure. That's fine. They have a Death Shadow. Alright, so Death Shadow's good. We're going to draw Lightning Bolt. Play our Terramander. So we really only need this Terramander to connect one time. Or if our opponent decides to go like Fetch Shock here. Now, if they have another removal spell here, we're going to use the removal spell to try and protect this Terramander. Because we're down to our last creature. We're going to need at least one creature here to try and close out this game. There's currently only 2 spells in our graveyard, so we can't, at this point, we can't rely on being able to adapt this. Alright, so we're taking 4. I'm just going to draw here. Alright, so let's see. Brainstorm. I'm a little reluctant to cast this Brainstorm here, just because this is our only blue card that's left. Because if we cast Brainstorm, they can respond with something like a Fatal Push, and we could be in a lot of trouble. So I think we're actually just going to attack for 1. Now, do we want to play this land? Is there a reason to play this land here? I mean, we could definitely put this land back with the Brainstorm. Like, that's not out of the question. But I'm going to hold on to it for right now. We don't really need the extra mana. And if we draw another blue card next turn, we might be able to like do something like draw a blue card, play Brainstorm, fetch away the land, and be able to cast our Lightning Bolts. Alright, so we'll take 5. They're not doing anything. This is interesting now, because so if we Lightning Bolt them, we'll take them to 5. Another Lightning Bolt will take them to 2. That turns off their fetch land, because we're going to hit them with for 1 here with Pteramander. So if we double Lightning Bolt, that'll put us to 4 spells. Alright, so I think we're just going to draw here. That's unfortunate. Alright, so I think it's probably worth casting the Brainstorm now, because now we know we have 2 dead cards in our hand. Like I said, I really didn't want to cast this Brainstorm without having another blue card, but alright, so nothing happened, which is good news. We get to put back 2 lands. Play a Delver. They want to Force a Will or Delver, huh? What did they pitch? Force a Will pitching Brainstorm? That kind of confuses me a little bit. If you're pitching Brainstorm, you're either really desperate or your other cards in your hand are still very good. So let's attack for 1. We'll send them to 6. And we're going to pass the turn here. That was a big misstep on my part. I actually shouldn't have attacked there, because now they just have lethal here. Yeah, that was a mistake on my part. Oh. Or not. Well, maybe they got a little greedy here. Unless they have multiple counter spells. Do they have another one? Oh, boo. Alright. Alright, so that kind of cost us. It was a little misstep on my part there. But they had 2 counter spells, so... Alright. So, let's see. What do we got going on here? This stuff we don't need. Fork bolts we don't care. Pyroblasts aren't anything special. Most of our sideboard's just not very good here, honestly. Maybe that was a mistake, not Force of Willing that Death Shadow. Might just cut the Force of Wills here for the Fluster Storms. Maybe just keep in 1 Force of Will. I think that's fine. Most of the time you want to side out Force of Will against the Hymn to Turok decks, but Death Shadow's not your standard Hymn to Turok deck. Alright, this hand's good. Young Pyromancer is really good against them. We're going to fetch a basic here, play around Wasteland as best you can. Delver. An ugly Delver, but it is a Delver. Alright, so let's do our attacking. Play our own Delver. And pass turn. So they're going to brainstorm here to try and force their Delver to flip. Flip with the Force of Will. Alright, so we'll take our 3. Alright, so Delver trigger, Scalding Tarn. We do not want a Scalding Tarn, so we're going to fetch that one away. Get our mountain. Alright, so we're going to go Pyromancer. We're going to Force a Will here, which is fine. Alright, so now we get to put a spell back for our Delver. So we're going to go Terramander, Chain Lightning on top. Attack for 2. Alright, and we know we have 9 points of burn here. We have a Lightning Bolt and 2 Chain Lightnings. They're boldly fetching and shocking. So I assume a Death Shadow is coming here. Sure. Gurmag, yep. Alright, so let's play Terramander. Let's attack with our Delver. I think we're just going to attack with Delver here. Attack for Delver, take him to 6, and that leaves any 2 of these burn spells are going to be lethal. We have 2 chump blockers for Death Shadow, so that's something we don't have to worry about. We're going to cast our Chain Lightning, take our opponent to 3, and they have 1 turn here. They're going to shock to 1. Alright, I guess you got it. So they have Marsh Casualties, which kills both of our creatures, and we're dead. Alright, that was kind of just a beating. But that was a lot. That was kind of just a beating there, but alright, so alright, we took a little bit of a hard loss there. We're gonna hop into our next league here. We're gonna play one more match for you guys, so we get our full 5 matches. All right, so I guess we're really two and we're technically 3-1 right now. That's a mulligan. We cannot keep that one. This is also going to be a mulligan, so it looks like we're going to be starting this game at 5. Can't play Magic if we don't have any lands. Oh, I guess we're keeping this. Hopefully this is a matchup where Wasteland is good. Well, I guess it's not the end of the world. We get Terramander and Ponder. So I guess for a mulligan to 5, this isn't terrible. And apparently our opponent's not doing anything. So that being said, we know the top card of our deck. We know the top card of our deck is a Volcanic Island, which we don't want. So I'm going to fetch here first. Play Ponder. I'll take the Daze. I wonder if maybe our opponent's Dredge or something that they kept they kept a no land hand. All right. Well, I guess our opponent just didn't want to show us any information, so that's fine. That being said, I'm just not going to sideboard anything here. I mean, they mulliganed to 6, they kept a no-lander and didn't do anything for the first 2 turns, so we're just going to kind of keep a generic sideboard here and leave it at that. There's no real reason for us to sideboard when we didn't see a single thing. All right, sounds fine. Green Sun. So this could be Elves. Elves or Maverick. Both of which our hands are very poorly set up against. I guess we'll take the Daze. Daze and the Lightning Bolt. Quarian Ranger. Okay, so it's Elves. Yep. Land or Elves, sure. We're not dazing that one. Well, this Daze isn't going to be very good here, so I think we're going to play Pyromancer and hope we get to untap with it. Next turn, we can Daze and Lightning Bolt and light up the stage, so, but we got to get something going here. They have 3 mana right now, so it's unlikely that this Daze is going to be able to nab anything. Okay, Symbiote, so they can now bounce their Visionary here and replay it and draw some extra cards. Sure. Symbiote gives us a good target for Lightning Bolt next turn. Another Visionary. Alright, so it looks like we're just going to probably get ground out by Visionaries this game. Alright, so we at least get to stem the bleeding here a little bit. I am going to attack with the Pyromancer token here. If they want to block, that's fine. If they don't want to block, that's fine too. Try to get our spectacle on here for this light up the stage. I mean, so far the Terramanders have been pretty good in this deck. We haven't really seen the light up the stage a whole lot. Sure. All right, your turn. Abrupt decay. Sure. Yep. The elf deck gets to do some elf things here. Untap some things, play some more things. Is that all you got? All right, so Wasteland is nothing special right now. I mean, if you Wasteland, you can cut them off a black, potentially, but Wasteland you generally want to reserve for Cradle. All right, so we get to cast a light up the stage. I guess probably land Pyromancer. I mean, we don't really need the other land, but it's free, so I guess we're going to take it. And it's your turn. Green Sun for 1. Is this another symbiote? It is. So they just want to keep drawing cards. Okay. Bounce Visionary, play another Visionary. Oh, they have a Glimpse now. Do they have the Cradle to go with it? Untap a land. Okay. So they're going to get to draw 2 cards here. They have not made a land drop yet this turn. Still no Cradle, which is good news for us. Alright. Man, we definitely don't need any more lands. Alright, so we're going to play Pyromancer. Let's attack with our tokens. See if anybody wants to block. They don't, which is fine. So let's cast our light up stage. I'm kind of surprised they didn't try blocking there, because they knew about the stage. That's terrible. Alright, so I'm actually going to play Wasteland here. We're going to play Wasteland here, that way just in case they go for the Bayou or they go for the Cradle at some point. But those two lands are these last two light up the stages have been terrible. They have another glimpse. Visionary, sure. Get to draw a couple cards. Alright, so we're just going to kind of let them do their thing here. Not that we really have much of a choice. Aquarian Ranger, yep. So they used their symbiote, they used their first Aquarian Ranger, and now they're using their second Aquarian Ranger. Heritage Druid, so now they get to generate 1,000,000 mana. Alright, so mana is no longer their bottleneck at this point. Green Sun for 1. Are they going to get maybe another Nettle Sentinel here? Another symbiote, okay. Keep drawing some cards. Alright, so they get to draw 2 more here. Alright, so we're pretty close. I don't know. I mean, they've got 11 cards at hand, but it seems pretty unlikely that they are going to fizzle from this point. They now have 2 Nettle Sentinels in play and the Heritage Druid, so every time they cast a spell, they're netting mana. Now they're getting another Green Sun Zenith. Let's see what they decide to get with this one. Another Heritage Druid doesn't really do a whole lot for them. Alright, so they have the Natural Order. Alright, that's good enough. Okay, so we're going to go to game 3 here. Now we know what we're playing against. So now we get to bring in Fork Bolts, get to bring in a Braids, Grafdigger's Cage. Let's see, what do we not want? Vapor Snag is not great. Probably these light up the stages are going to go. Your flying threats are your best threats in this matchup. So going to be like Delver and Terramander. Maybe we'll trim one of the Pyromancers. Like Pyromancer is not great. Like it's okay, but it's nothing special. You've seen it last game. You can make a pile of tokens, and it's just that's not the way you're trying to win this game. So I think cutting one of the Pyromancers is fine. And it looks pretty good to me. Flusterstorm's not great against them. Like it's okay. There's sometimes you can get them with the Flusterstorm, but they're nothing special. I mean, maybe we want the maybe the Flusterstorms are better than the Pyromancers just altogether. You're just looking to really play a 1-mana threat and protect it from there for the rest of the game. So let's try that. Let's just try cutting the Pyromancers altogether here. Yeah, this hand's fine. I mean, we only have 1 mana, but we have a bunch of cantrips here to try and find it. So we get to go turn 1 Delver. We have Daze for a little bit of protection. We have an Abrade for a removal spell. We just need some of these cantrips to find some lands. Heritage Druid is fine. It doesn't do anything on its own. Mountain. So we don't get to reveal a mountain, but we do get to kill your guy. Kill your guy, attack for 1. Crane Ranger is fine. I guess that's all you got. Delver gets to flip with the Ponder, which is nice. We will cast our Ponder. Well, there's a bunch of lands here. We're going to take the Wasteland and Pendlehaven this turn. We're going to try to keep them tight on mana here, especially with having this Daze in our hand. Delver got to flip that turn, so now we get to really start putting the pressure on. I will accept your 1. Another Ranger. And say go. Alright. That's fine. So we know there's another Scalding Tarn on the top of our deck, so I think we're going to probably just Brainstorm here and look to shuffle some of these away. So we're definitely getting rid of 1 Scalding Tarn. The other card's kind of interesting here. It's probably Daze. No, it's not Daze. It might just be a cantrip. Because if we shuffle here, we're not going to have another shuffle effect for the Brainstorm. So I think I'm fine getting rid of the Brainstorm here. This lets us play Terramander. Attack with our Delver. We now have 3 spells in the yard currently. Visionary. Okay. Our opponent looks like they don't have any shortage of lands this game. I will take my 2. Yeah, so we currently have 3 in the yard, so I'm actually not going to Lightning Bolt here. There's no reason to really throw the Lightning Bolt at their face yet. It's not like we're flipping Terramander this turn. We're not adapting it this turn, so if we were adapting it there, I would have been more interested in doing it. And I think these are just not going to be good enough. I mean, your 1 Wasteland hitting a Bayou isn't going to be good enough, and then you definitely don't want to draw the other 2 lands. So we'll shuffle this. True Name. I mean, True Name wasn't a very good draw there either. So let's Ponder again. Forked Bolt, you say? I will take the Forked Bolt. All right, so let's attack. Hit him for 4 in the air. And we're going to take out these 2 Quirion Rangers. This one little Visionary in play doesn't do anything. So we have 3, 4 damage, plus 3 is the Lightning Bolt. So we should have lethal next turn if they can't do anything, put anything together here. Yeah, Glimpse is gonna happen. Wirewood Symbiote is fine. There's their land drop. Okay, so we don't have to worry about Cradle. I guess an Abrupt Decay would be pretty good here if they Abrupt Decay or Delver. All right, so they're gonna attack us for 1. All right, so I'm assuming that's an Abrupt Decay. The way that they fetched, they didn't attack with the Dryad Arbor, so it's pretty safe to say that they have an Abrupt Decay in their hand. So we have 6 spells in our yard. So if we just Lightning Bolt our opponent, we can Lightning Bolt our opponent and adapt our Terramander here, and we can still win through their Decay. So we start with the Lightning Bolt, and that's good enough. Yeah, because at that rate, so even if they decay one of them, the other one's still going to get it for lethal because we have enough that we can adapt to Terramander. But all right, well, with the exception of that one mishap in the Death Shadow matchup, I think our deck operated pretty well from what we wanted to see. The light up the stages were a little awkward the couple times we cast them, but I mean, it's kind of a new card. Try them out, see how they go. I mean, people have definitely been doing well with the card. I mean, this might have just been a small sample size, but the Terramanders have definitely been pretty impressive so far. I do like those. The stages, we'll see how the stages go. But anyway, if you're still here, I want to say thank you very much for watching the video. We'll be back for some more Legacy going on in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you're interested in Legacy content in the future, and we'll see you next time. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night. Bye.